Hi, this is John Ondo from Marketing Media and Cupcakes. And before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. We're back after being gone for over 4.5 years. And I hope you get a chance to listen to episode 77, where we explain why we were gone for so long and that we're back for at least 3 more episodes. Angel and I are big supporters of entrepreneurship, and we love small businesses and faith-based businesses. And we just want to encourage you through our podcast each week. What's going to determine if we continue with more episodes will be the response. Subscribe to us on your platform. Send us an email at john@ondomedia.com. That would help us know you're listening and you want more episodes. So thank you so much, and let's get into today's episode.
This is the small business podcast that is sweeter than all the rest. Marketing, media, and cupcakes.
Welcome to episode 13 of Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. 13 has always been a lucky number for me, actually. You know,
it's also a lucky number for me. That's when my second child was born, is on a 13.
Yeah, this is my wife, Angel. Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you want to start that again? I apologize. I jumped in.
No, it was perfect. I asked you a question about 13.
Well, we don't normally do it that way. It's like, hey, John, and I go, hi, Yuki. I'm like, Yuki.
Wait, we're just throwing away the format and doing because we're just
it out
crazy
the window.
People here.
Maybe with the bathwater.
That's what I was going to say.
There are other people here.
There's other people here, too. We'll get to that in a second. But we're a small business podcast for small business by small business. And 13 was always good because I remember we had a Friday the 13th and everybody be freaking out at school. And if I had a test, I always did great at the test on the Friday the 13th. So our Foley department today is Terry and Nay Dismore, who were with us last week, and they are good friends. Terry actually participated in a part of our wedding ceremony.
He did.
We asked him first, but yes, he did. And it was great. And his wife Renee, or Nay, has a small business, Snacks with a Twist.
Yes.
And we're talking about and both Angel and I have our own small businesses too. And, we're a different podcast. You can hear a lot of podcasts, and they're very impressive, millions of dollars, and you can do this and that, stand on your head. And that's all great. But I don't know about you, but I've had to work really hard to get where I'm at, and I'm not driving Ferraris yet or, anything. I have a Miata. That's pretty cool.
There you go.
But, the question is, I think a lot of people who have the dream, I want to start a small business, and then there, as we all know in life, a big but comes in the way. So I don't, you find out, I have to pay insurance, or I have to have an inspection, or I have to do this, and suddenly all joy gets sucked out, and you think, I can't do this, and fear gives in. So Terry is has always been a great encouragement. Both of them have been great encouragements to us. Tell me about fear. And the fear, we all as humans have this fear of failing. Mm-hmm. And nobody wants to fail in sports. Nobody wants to fail starting a small business, telling all your friends, hey, I'm starting a small business. And then when they say, where'd the small business go? Well, it's shut down. But that's a fear. And sometimes we've had episodes where we talked about failure can be a great way to learn. Tell me about fear and how it works and how it shouldn't work.
Well, I think fear in and of itself, some people say it's false evidence appearing real. And I talk about it from a faith standpoint, that fear is not the opposite of faith. It is faith in a bad outcome. You believe a bad outcome is coming. Mm-hmm. And so when Nay was, early on, and we can talk a little bit about this, early in our marriage, for the first 16 years, she was sick.
Yeah.
But
wasn't that fun?
No, but we quit. There was a point we quit talking about her.
And we're not talking about a cold. She was in the hospital. There was life-threatening things going on. It was not pleasant.
Yeah.
Lots of surgeries. 9 different times they told us I was going to, not make it through the night, the day, the week. And we kept saying, no, that's not true.
That's not who we are. So fear can come into play here in a couple of things. First of all, fear almost always comes when you don't have a good, clear vision of where you're going. And I heard you all talk on the podcast a couple of weeks ago about the lack of vision. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, we talked about this upstairs last week when we were here for our pre-meeting, so you can assure that we actually had something to talk about. And and so what I have found is when you don't know where you're going and you don't know why you're doing something, you're almost assured that it's going to fail.
Yeah.
So with, for instance, that I've done a lot of work at Ford dealers over the years,
right.
and I do work with Ford Motor Company off and on. Okay, which one? Did you realize that the Ford we know today is Ford Motor Company number 4?
Yeah.
No.
That Mr. Ford failed 3 times, and I mean went completely out of business before he had the motor company that became his multi-billion-dollar business that it is today. He didn't give up. He didn't quit. He had a good, clear vision of what he could do. He knew he was mechanically inclined. He didn't have the good business skills, but he got those and earned those and hired the right people for them. So we get into fear when we don't know where we're going. So when I went to a meeting with a group here recently, and they wanted me to give them some advice. I'm like, okay, what do you want to do? And that was their reaction. So my next question was, well, what do you consider a win?
Okay.
Crickets?
I don't
Crickets
notice
again.
it.
And they're like, what do you mean? What do we consider a win? And I'm like, when the Buckeyes play, we consider a win when they have more points than the other team.
Which is most cases.
In most cases, yes. So what is your vision for what you do? And they said, and they happen to own a radio station. They said, we want to use the radio station to get the word out about the church. And I'm like, okay, it's been on the air 30 years. Don't you think people have heard about it by now? What's your real vision? They didn't have one. So what could I do for them? Nothing.
No. Yeah.
Now, if you came to me, John, or Nay, if Nay said, tell me where you'd like to go on vacation.
Oh, a beach.
Okay.
Any beach.
All right. So that limits it some.
Yes.
Tell me where you'd really like to go on vacation.
Half Moon Bay, California.
All right. Now I know where we want to go.
There you go.
Now, I have figured out how to get there. Now, personally, I could get in the car today and drive there. I wouldn't even have to look at a map. I know how to get there. I just do because I've been there.
Wow.
However, is that the best way to get there? No.
No.
It's a long, long, long drive out Interstate 80. And then some.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not the best way to get there. The best way is to get on an airplane. Now I have to plan the next thing, and I have to plan the next thing. But the ultimate goal is clearly in sight. Now, if I just told you, Angel,
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to Half Moon Bay, California, would you be able to do any of those things? Could you just get in the car and drive?
No.
Could you figure out how to get there by airplane?
If I went onto the interwebs.
There you go. You can get that information. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. I know you were giving me that one look, but
Yeah.
I
I don't want to go with you anywhere.
Yeah.
We didn't script this, kids. I was a little bit. I was like, "Wow."
No, but you're right. You now know that's where Nay wants to go. Now
Yes.
you can help us get there,
Yes.
and anybody can help us get there. But until she said, "I want to go to saying I want to go to a beach," there's a beach out at
Alum Creek.
Buckeye Lake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's beaches in a lot of places. Where do you really want to go? So that, to me, John, and to answer your question, is the hardest thing for most people is to get a clear vision about where they want to go and what they want to do and make it stick.
Right.
And I think that's why fear gets in there, because they don't have a clear vision. Plus, another thing is they aren't passionate about what they're pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
I love hospitality, as I talked last week. I love seeing people light up about the things that I do and the products that they try and they eat. And I remember from your podcast a few weeks ago talking about your lemon blueberry dessert and how they call it lemon crack. I have peanut butter bark that everybody calls peanut butter crack.
It is peanut butter crack, people. I'm not kidding you.
And so, that's such a shot in the arm for us and that's why we do what we do. And it takes time, and we put all that effort in there because we're passionate about it, and we know it's what people like and enjoy. And, that keeps us from letting fear get in there to get us to stop or to go, somebody else might not like this.
Well, and I think, and we've watched TV shows, reality shows like Bar Rescue with John Taffer.
Yeah.
Love it.
And you see people who buy bars, and you know what they thought? They went to that bar. They thought it was fun. They thought if that bozo can own a bar, I can own a bar. And then they run it into the ground.
Right.
They don't know the costs. They don't know things. And John Tapper comes in and yells at them for 40 minutes, and then maybe fixes,
Yes, he does.
Maybe fixes the bar, but I think more than likely he leaves and the thing goes to crap again.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the after bar reviews?
Yeah.
Online, and
Some
half
are
of them
gone.
go back the way they were. It's
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
here's a guy that's made millions of dollars in the bar business. Why don't you let him tell you what to do? Well, you know why they don't? It's because they didn't have a good, clear vision in the first place.
Or they just thought, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. And again, it's like looking at your pretzel bag at the store and thinking, well, I can do that. You don't have a clue how that was made. It's no different than people who I often get into video production. Like, well, I can make a nice. I have a great. How many times have you heard this radio idea? It's like, oh, I have a great idea for a radio show, or I have a great idea for a TV show, and I listen to them, and I always say, that's great for episode 1. What do you got for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6? And they look at you like. I don't want to, poop in your punch bowl here, but here's the simple fact.
There's a picture.
But, here's the simple fact. Coming up with a good idea for a TV show, it's more than that. There's production, there's legal, there's copyright, there is writing, and most people don't realize what goes into it. So when people say, oh, I want to start a cupcake business or whatever, they don't realize, oh, my gosh. Now, again, we're not saying that to put fear into you, but what happens is they start something and they didn't count the cost getting into it. And, and what we want to encourage you with this podcast is that you can, if you believe, and this is, I think, something you guys would certainly chime in on, but if you think there's something that makes you happy, and we are people that we've said for years that, you are on this planet for a purpose,
Right.
and it makes you happy, there's probably some possible business idea that you can do, because I do believe people pay for solutions.
Sure.
And when she had a cake this weekend, somebody, it wasn't like hey, Angel, I want to buy a certain kind of cake that you make. It was like, could you make this cake that somebody made me as a kid or something? And it was a bizarre recipe. And she spent all weekend working on it, and I think it turned out great.
I don't know. I haven't heard from him yet. I'm going to have to find out.
Although the ambulance was headed that way the other day. So.
But we don't know because we didn't have this cake as a kid. So it's but the reason you didn't go to a grocery store and buy just a generic cake is you paid for Angel to create that experience. Therefore, it costs money. Likewise with you. So give us some. How should we get over the fear?
Well, I think the first thing, as I said, was having a good, clear vision about what you do. And the second thing is knowing not everybody's going to like you. So I see John over here on the electronic equipment that we have in the room is using a Mac.
Yay!
And I use a PC.
Boo!
I know. Now, I've worked with both, and I like both. But PCs have a huge install base. But Macs have a huge market share in the creative world. Why is that? Well, part of it is that creatives are contrarians. Mm-hmm. So there are contrarians that if you had 90% market share, that means 10% of it's going to somebody else. And 10% in an American-sized business is a huge amount of money. So now here's an interesting little statistic. Not every car on the road is a Ford or a Hyundai or a GM. Why? Everybody likes something a little bit different. Maybe in the case of a Kia, like you all have a Kia.
Like Grandpa said, if we all like the same things, we'd all be chasing after your grandmother.
Well,
you'd better stop that now.
Yes.
But you've got to have a good, clear vision of where you're going to get past the fear, because fear is going to be there. Fear is going to confront you, because being a small business person to me means overcoming the obstacles.
Right.
To becoming a successful small business person.
So,
go ahead.
Well, so Nay, weren't you afraid?
No, I never even thought about being afraid, because I did a lot of research, and then I found the ECDI, which is an organization here in Columbus that helps incubate small businesses, and then they had a commercial kitchen. So I got the expertise, the direction. They led me through the processes in order to start out correctly. So when, they came in, the government comes in to go over everything that you're doing, and
Because they will.
I passed without any problem, and without any bribes, and
that helps your profit margin.
It does. Yeah, you're right. And the thing about it is, it not only helped her with that, but she didn't have to have that concern going in that they were going to find. There's obstacles to everything that you want to do. So it's like knowing that I want to get to Half Moon Bay, or I want to get to the best cupcake in town, or whatever it is that you want, or you want to win. See, the thing about money and income and all that kind of stuff is that is all just scorekeeping. That's all it is. It's just a scorebook. So Mr. Wexner has had a pretty good, he's put a lot of baskets up.
Owner of the Limited and Victoria's Secret.
Yeah,
and
and he lives near your house here, and he,
not that close.
Not that close, but you can see the glow from here.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Well,
we hear his helicopter from time to time.
Well, and the point is, he didn't do it by going, I guess I'd like to have a clothing store. He decided he's going to have a clothing store. Now, interesting, everything that he does has to do with either clothing or personal comfort. Everything he does. Nothing else. So that's something to keep in mind, too, is that Nay and I will never have a snack business that has a roller skate rink. Because they don't go together. Didn't you mention a couple of weeks ago that somebody came to you and wanted, or that was on your first podcast, you mentioned that somebody came to you and wanted you to make cookies. And what did you say?
I don't do cookies.
Now, why don't you do cookies?
Because they're a pain in the butt.
But it also, what's the title of your company?
Angel's Custom Cupcakes.
Yeah. Now, I know you're doing cakes now, but that's got cake in it, so it's
exactly.
okay.
I've kind of had to, mold that a little bit. But, yeah. So cookies are just difficult. I mean, for me.
Right.
They're just not, they're not my bailiwick. They take forever, especially the kind of things that people want, and it's not my skill set. So,
and I think
just say no.
That's a major point of growth for any company when you get to the point where you say, I am not going to do that. For me, it's never been an option for Ondo Media to do wedding photography or wedding videos.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
I would rather diffuse a landmine in Afghanistan than do a wedding. And here's one of the reasons is...
It's less complicated, and if it blows up on you, it doesn't hurt as much.
You've just said it. to give
Amen.
up... Well, to give up a Saturday, which first of all, you can make good money at wedding videos. So I'm not putting down the wedding business, but it is high stress. It is one take only. If you miss it and you do something wrong, you deal with mother-in-laws and all kinds of. And so to me, the value of getting paid good money, but to go through that, and for me, now some people can bounce off that stuff. I'm a stress guy. I worry about everything. I would rather do something that I can say, hey, stop, let's retake that. But with a wedding, you can't do that, and that's too much pressure for me. So for me, I've never made weddings a possibility. And I think that a lot of people think, well, I can't say no to anything. I got to say yes to everything. And I think you've got to say no to things, especially if you don't enjoy them. There's no way your product can possibly... Have you ever known anybody who hated doing something that made a good product from this? Like, I hate cars, and they made a great car.
No.
So,
Nay, has anyone ever asked you to? Again, you're kind of like me. Well, you do everything. I mean, I wouldn't even know what to do with a pretzel, other than eat it. But like, has anyone ever come and asked you? It's like, oh, well, these are great, but can you do blah?
Yes. Since you're so good at this, would you do cutout cookies? I'm like, no. Well, what about wedding cakes? Nope. At the time, it was pretzels with a twist.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wanted, I said, my business about my gourmet pretzels are different.
Mm-hmm.
They're not where you can go in and find, 6-7 dozen different types.
Mm-mm.
You can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'd want me to make yogurt pretzels or chocolate covered.
Sure.
And I was like, no, they're not unique.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my flavors are.
Yep.
And you're not going to find a peppermint cocoa pretzel here around. I have not yet to find any.
I'm not.
And so then that's our Christmas, our winter flavor, and
tastes like a Thin Mint.
It really
does.
It really does.
It does for those Thin Mint lovers out there.
So, but
But yeah, you've had people come to you all the time and ask you to do that or other thing. Can you also do thus and so?
But you've never been afraid to say no.
No.
But
not
do you know
at
why
all.
she's not afraid to say no?
No.
It's because she knows what her purpose is.
Okay.
Right.
Because when you don't, so it's an analogy. Now, John and I love trains, and you know that. Both you ladies know that.
We do.
This is an
Yes.
analogy that I use. And a locomotive on the railroad weighs 420,000 pounds roughly. And if it's geared correctly, it can go 70 miles an hour. And it can go 70 miles an hour from the East Coast to the West Coast. No problem. It can't go 4 inches to the right. It has to stay on track. Every track in the United States pretty much is 4 feet, 8.5 inches apart. If they make it 5 feet, it comes off the rails again. Again, it's knowing where you're going, knowing how to get there, and staying on track. And I know it's kind of it's trite,
No,
but it's the
not at all.
truth. And so when you see people begin to diversify, for instance, you think of Walmart as being a diversified company. Nope. They carry some groceries and home goods and a few. Now, some Walmarts have a little bit different selection. Like I was in the country here a while back, and it was a Walmart that had cut goods. What a cloth, is that what they call them? Soft goods. You know, where they
Fabrics and
fabric
stuff.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You don't see that everywhere. Or it had a big gun section. You don't see that everywhere. In other places, you're going to find a different mix. But the mix is 80, 85, maybe 90% the same Walmart to Walmart across the country. And they'll put in a few other things. But they're not going to have necessarily a high-end lingerie department or tuxedo rental. You never see that in a Walmart. Why not? Well, there's business there, and it's clothing. No, that's not what we specialize in.
Well, and to some degree, your audience also knows I don't expect to find those things there.
Correct.
Because
Right.
they've built that. So it goes both ways. Is that I do think, and it goes back again. We said this in several episodes. Sometimes offering less is more.
It
and,
is.
And sometimes when I've had people call me up, and this sounds really weird. John, we'd like to do a documentary. It's going to be blah, blah, blah. And we're expecting a large film crew, and it's a big budget. And you might say, well, John, that's great. It's like, no, I actually don't enjoy working with lots of people because it dilutes the vision, and I like working one-on-one. So the first thing that I lose all my joy of is I have to start hiring people and going through unions and different things. God bless them, but for my business, that's not what I like to do. So I said, you know what, this is great, but I'm going to recommend some other companies in town because this is not what I do. I work on smaller projects, and I'm totally happy with that. And I have a niche there, and I think Angel's Custom Cupcakes is similar in the same sense that she's developing this brand of, here, Stumper.
Yes.
Well,
I need a Queen Elizabeth cupcake from the 13th century, and she will probably figure out how that worked.
Well, I think that's where and I'm right. I'm taking all these notes because they are, Terry and Nay are just, again, they're our friends, and yet I've never really asked them these questions. We always have so many other fun things to discuss. But
And food to eat.
Yeah, well, always. But that is the one thing someone's always said, if you don't want to shop, what do you want to do with this? And I've always kind of jokingly said, I just want to do this for when I retire.
Yeah.
And I said, if I could just find a little restaurant that just needs some desserts made a couple of times a week, wouldn't that be great? Well, instead of just mouthing that, maybe I need to really write that down and look at what does that really look like? What is
Right.
that vision?
It'll help you.
And, I've done a ton more cakes this year, thinking that somehow I've distorted this cupcake vision, but you just made it okay when you said, well, there's cake in there.
Yeah.
So, because I literally was like, okay, what happened? I did all this stuff to make it cupcakes, and I've made more cake for people, full-size cakes, than I've done cupcakes. But I'm like, well, wait a minute.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So the thing that I think, and again, we're just so appreciative of you listening. And if you like what you're hearing, subscribe to our podcast, give it a good rating, because we're building this up, and we're a fairly new podcast, but we're here because we really want small businesses to be encouraged, inspired, and realize that there is a dream out there you can live. And what we were talking about today was fear, and it really goes back down to our show previously with Terry and Renee, where we talked about it comes down to vision. If you don't know, it's just, I don't know how I love aviation, and I don't know how planes fly. in the middle of storms. You can't see out the windows. I'm a visual guy. They're just working off that radar. But that's because there is a vision there. There is a navigation. It's been plugged in. There's waypoints. And that's how business needs to work. So if you're living in fear now, I think our encouragement to you is, what's your vision? And when you start putting in those navigational, what we call waypoints in aviation, that you can say, I got to get to this point, and then I got to get to this point, and then I got to get this point. Next thing you know, the fear is gone because you know where you're going. Right. Now, and if you realize, hey, I lost an engine, okay, well, we need to put a new waypoint in. We need to land the plane somewhere. But the point is, it's not, and there is an episode I want to talk about this with Angel because we deal with this a lot, is the crisis management mentality of a lot of places. So, and that's something that I think I think that's what drives a lot of small businesses into business, is because people say, I can't work at this place anymore. It's just all crisis. So, I hope whatever it is you're doing with your small business, don't let it be about the crisis management, and be encouraged. And one thing I'm very proud of is Terry and Renee, and they're as close as to anybody to us. But we surround ourselves with positive people.
Yes.
If you're around people who are like, why are you doing this? What is this? Then you need to unfriend them and move away. I say that with all due respect, but you can't have negative people constantly yelling at your product. I'll let you guys kind of take the lead with the last comment or something.
Well, that's true. And I think that, I was going to say it to Angel, always, if people start speaking fear, I just don't know how I would do that, kind of shut that down pretty quickly. You want to surround yourself with people who believe in what you're doing. And not that you want them to fluff up your skirt or anything, but
sure,
I would like them to fluff up.
He
my
would
skirt.
like that.
Yes,
but,
I'm just trying to get that out of my head.
Me too. Come out mental picture. But you want people who are going to cheer you on.
Yes.
I love that about the ECDI. While they were instructing me and leading me and guiding me in the processes to be, a good company, and have the right labels, the right bags, all that kind of stuff, they were cheering me on. You have that guidance when you have those people around you. That takes the fear away. And also, quite frankly, Terry asked me a few months ago, he goes, you want to retire? You want to just not do anything? Not that that would be possible for me. But I said, no, because this is still a lot of fun. I enjoy this. I want to see it, the vision fulfilled, because I can see it. I've seen it from the very beginning, how this could be, and I believe in what I'm making. I enjoy it a lot.
And just one more thing to go along with what you said a minute ago about having people around you that are positive. So positive people put fuel in your tank to continue you toward your vision. Negative people siphon the fuel out.
Yeah.
And you
That's
can't
true.
afford to run out of fuel.
No.
You've got to keep going to where you are. John, thanks for having us in.
Yes,
Man, I
thank
really
you.
We're so
enjoyed
glad
it.
to have you.
Angel,
Oh, it was
thank you
amazing.
so much.
Angel.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us today. And again, please like the podcast, share it with your friends. But wherever you're at, I hope you're encouraged today. And thanks for listening, and keep living the dream.
Connect with John and Angel via Facebook and Instagram and let us know your thoughts. Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes is a production of Ondo Media.